question. What kills the trees the most? Lack of water or elephant? And most certainly it would be lack of water. These trees have evolved with elephants. They've also evolved with the climate. So when we get extreme drought, what will happen is you'll get big drops in water table, and that has been known to kill quite a few trees. But what is interesting is if we had to actually put that onto a scale, it might actually even be quite equal, because trees actually do very well in drought. So it is a difficult question. I would say that drought will kill small trees and saplings versus large trees, because large trees have got extensive root networks, are able to tap in to the groundwater. But when we get droughts here, you will see a decline in the smaller trees, but also you'll see a huge decline in the amount of grass. So actually trees do much better in drought than grass do. So it is a very sort of a conundrum that really, and elephants don't actually kill too many trees. They damage them. And these trees have evolved with elephants. So when the trees get damaged, they break and they fall in a certain way. And that is part and parcel of what happens in this ecosystem. Quite often, they will evolve to just grow back from the roots or grow back from the broken stem. But yes, a very good question. He is still being annoyed by those flies. I think maybe I'm going to get him. I should have got him a fly swatter for his birthday. I think he would have liked that. Atmadeep asks a question I'm not sure I understand. Will Hukumuri's movements be limited because he's a threat? Is that what you said, Nix? Okay, so Hukumuri has moved into the area, and his movements are, he's challenging Tingana, and what we've seen is that he's taking over areas that we know Tingana has dominated for years. So Hukumuri's movements will not be influenced by Hosana in any way, if that is anything to go by, but it will be influenced by other dominant male leopards. Ideally, if he saw Hosana, he'd try and chase him off and get him as far away from these areas as he possibly can, so that he does not become a threat at any other time. But through scent marking and through calling, these animals are demarcating areas to avoid conflict, to avoid confrontation, as they do not want to fight. You cannot fight every individual you see. I've always used this sort of analogy with students that, for example, if I stepped out of my house, now let's talk about just at DRC where we all live, there are quite a number of boys there, or should I say men. Some might behave like boys, but if every single day I walked out of my door and every single one of them was willing to fight me, I'm going to have a very hard time every single day. I'm not going to say I'm going to beat them all. I'm not going to say I'm going to lose to any of them. But if every single day I have to fight every male that I see, wow, there's going to be a hard life ahead of you. So by having boundaries, what we as humans have these days is we have a fence, we have a driveway, we have our pavement, and that is our home. And if someone invades that home, physically invades that home, then we can take to action. But if someone just walks past and has a look inside, there's no threat there, because they are not trying to invade your privacy or your territory, so to speak. So by males demarcating territories, females as well, they are keeping out all the males that are not willing to fight. So the males that are willing to have a fight will step into that barrier, just like we could talk about a boxing ring. The males that are willing to fight will step inside. If you're a boxer and you stand in a ring and you have to fight every single person that's standing outside, there's no chance of you being successful in any way. So I hope that answers your question. The territory and the scent marking and the calling is to avoid conflict as much as possible. And when that one boy comes past, or man, should I say, who's wanting to have a go, you'll be ready, and then it'll be an even sort of match. But if any male that comes past you have to fight. It will be a very hard going. Even if you're far stronger and far more physically fit than an individual, there will be weakness invoked through injury. So these animals will avoid injury. So a lot of people wonder, why demarcate territories? There's a lot of energy. It requires energy, but it's a lot less energy than fighting every single person you see or every single other male that you see. So it keeps them out, and it only allows those who are willing to have a go to cross that line, because those scent marking lines are like barriers. They are walls. An animal will walk, it'll smell it, and it'll go, whoa, hang on a second, I'm walking into territory that I am not very aware of. And if it happens to come across the dominant male, the behavior will be submissive. Hosana will probably roll on his back, or he'll behave like he did with Tingana, a very sort of aloof and, oh, I didn't even know you were there, Dad, and all sort of playful. But if he walks into that area and he knows that male's there and he wants to have a go, when he sees him, there'll be interaction, there'll be growling, there'll be behavior that is indicative of aggressive males. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Nix. Okay, so we are staying here with this beautiful prince who is not causing trouble with anybody else. And we're going to go to Scott Dyson, who I'm glad I don't have to fight every day, and he is just driving.
Well, yes, we have a very peaceful camp, thankfully. No fighting tolerated, so all is good. And we are basically just driving around in large circles at the moment. It's a beautiful evening, so happy to continue driving around in circles on this fine evening with good prospects of hopefully finding a leopard and her cub. Haven't found any tracks yet. It doesn't mean to say they haven't moved away and I just missed the tracks, but I have been looking quite carefully. Hello Ravinda, you would like to know, when are we going to see some bat species? No idea. I wish I knew. Maybe when we go to a new location somewhere. But, I mean, there are bats here. They're just tricky to film. So ideally we're going to need to find somewhere where they're sleeping, where we can film them during the day. Because, I mean, filming bats at night, other than getting a quick glimpse of one, I mean, I know we've seen them here. So there are bats here. And I'm fairly confident I've been involved in having one or two of them on camera, but it's, I mean, they fly very quickly. So, yeah, not an easy species for us, and to be honest, I mean, as interesting as they are, it's going to be a tricky animal for us to spend a great deal of time with. But yeah, maybe somewhere along the way we'll go somewhere where there's some big bats and numerous bats that are easier to film. Fruit bats would be good because they obviously have to land in fruit trees and then eat the fruit, so that will be a good bats. And we do get epauletted fruit bats in the Kruger National Park, quite big bats, and surroundings, but I haven't seen or heard too many of them here on Djuma. They might prefer the kind of riparian, riverine areas. There is also an incredible bat migration. Is it in Uganda or Zambia? Thank you, Ferg. In Sanka National Park, Kasanka National Park. Well, there we go. Seems like we've got a bat expert on the back. Old Ferg. So yes, apparently in a park called Kasanka in Zambia, there's this incredible bat migration, which would be quite cool to see. It'd be quite nice for us to go and do kind of specials, you know, go, I guess, like kind of like we did for the migration, although we've had a permanent camp there. But it'd be quite nice to go into areas just for, like, you know, 2-3 months, capture a spectacle, move on. So how you can help is keep telling your friends to join us on these safaris. It is that simple. That is all you need to do. Phone a friend, tell them to become addicted, and then we are winning. Because it's a numbers game. The more people watch, the more places we go to. And I could think of nothing better than going all around the globe with you guys. Laura, you'd like to know what species of bats are here on Djuma. Other than the epauletted fruit bats, I don't have a clue. There'll be a host of different insect-eating bats. I'm guessing maybe at least 4, 5, 6 species at least probably frequent this part of the Kruger National Park. I'm happy Paul has changed the subject onto chameleons, because I didn't really have a whole bunch to say about bats. And Paula would like to find a chameleon. Well, so would I. We're going to have to wait for the cover of darkness, though, as bizarre as that sounds. It's easier to find them after dark with a trusty old spotlight. And the reason being is that when you look into a bush, not all bushes, but most bushes, all their leaves will be a uniform green coloration. And a standard greenish colored leaf will always appear darker than what a chameleon looks like after dark. Chameleons come across almost like a dead leaf, a very pale shade, and of course they are in the shape of a chameleon. Prehensile tail all curled up. Again, it's ideal if you have them completely broadside to you as opposed to facing straight towards you or away from you. But that is the trick to finding them. Sierra, you'd like to know if we have hedgehogs here, and yes we do. They're quite widely spread through southern Africa, but I've actually never seen a live one. I've only ever seen them dead. Now these tiny little critters, at least the ones I've seen, very, very small little hedgehogs. So yes, they do occur here. Even here in the Sabi Sands, I think you get them. But not very common. And considering how many hours I've driven around southern Africa and walked around southern Africa, the fact that I've never seen a living one gives you a good idea of how few and far between they actually are. Alrighty, well, we've got some exciting news, and that is that we are about to welcome on board a classroom full of school kids all the way in Texas, and it is the first time they are joining us on one of these live safaris. So be prepared for that, and we're going to send you across to Taylor now to welcome them all on board.
Well, hello everybody. It might sound a bit strange because I've got a flower in my mouth. Hello to all of you who have just joined us from Legacy Elementary. I'm very excited to have you ask us all sorts of questions today. My name is Taylor, and behind the camera, bringing you all the cool footage, his name is David.
Hello.
And then there's somebody else out here who's trying to actually help me make a whistle, because that's what I want to do with you today. Is I'm going to try and show you how to make cool things in the bush, because we're on foot, we're walking around. So this is Rexon. Rexon, you got to say hello to all the children at Legacy Elementary.
Hello everyone from Legacy Elementary.
There we go.
Rexon.
And Rexon apparently knows how to make the whistle. I've only made one whistle in my entire life from this flower, which is called a zinnia, but now there is a trick to it, and it is very, very difficult. I think I'm on my 10th flower now, trying to make it. So I have another one in my pocket. Not working. Look, can you hear? It's not working as well, though. I think I need a bit more practice. But I don't feel too bad about pulling these flowers out, is because they should not be here anyway. They come from South America. They should not be along here. So they need to go. Bye-bye, flowers. We can pull them all out. They're legal. They weren't supposed to come across here. Now, because you guys haven't been with us before, I bet you're very excited to see some wild animals. So you can ask us questions. All you have to do is just ask your teacher. But we're going to go up this way now and see what we can find. Now, Ian, I say your name and I have a very bitter taste in my mouth. Not because of your name, because that flower is not very nice to eat at all. I need some water to wash it down. But you were wondering what is the most dangerous animal out here? I'm going to go with a buffalo. A buffalo and a hippo are not my two favorite animals, especially while we are walking around. And the reason for that is because, well, hippos like to be in water. They feel a lot safer in water. So when they come out of the water, they're very uncomfortable and they don't like people. Then buffalo don't give very many warning signs. And it's not the family groups that I'm looking, or that I'm worrying about, not the herds. The ones I'm really worried about are the buffalo bulls that are all on their own, that have got too old, too slow to keep up with the breeding herds, and then they live by themselves. You can imagine when you're living with a whole family your entire life, and then you go down to just being you or one other, you become a little bit nervous and you want to constantly keep looking over your shoulder to make sure that no one's trying to sneak up to you. And lions would be going after those buffalo that are by themselves. Now, I have a secret to tell you. It's not going to be a secret anymore because you're all going to hear me. Rexon said that he thought he heard some elephants up around this way. So maybe if we're lucky, we're going to be able to see them. But the problem that we have is that the sun has already gone down. It's already dropped behind the horizon. Look, you can just see the last of it now. Now, that's no good for us being on foot. So I think unless those elephants move out into the open, we probably are not going to go and look for them. But we'll see what else we can find out here in the bush. And I'm going to keep looking for some cool things to show you. Maybe some spiders, some birds panicking and flying past us now. We've given them a bit of a fright. Maybe some fruit to eat, or maybe I'll make something for you. We'll see. I haven't decided, but somebody that does have their mind up is Steve, and he's got a cat that I bet you all can't wait to see.
I do have a cat, and welcome. We have got ourselves a very flat cat that is busy lying down here in the drainage line, probably about 10 to 12 yards in front of our vehicle, and it is a beautiful male cat. He's a leopard, and his name is Hosana. Welcome, Legacy Elementary School. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Seb Rombi on the camera. And we managed to find this male leopard. He was found this morning by Taylor herself and Seb, actually, and he was not far from where we are now. And he had a dead animal, a duiker, up the tree with him that he was feeding on. So we came back this afternoon to try and find him and the duiker, and some elephants came into the area and pushed him, and he's moved probably about 60 to 80 yards from where he was before, and he is now lying flat in the drainage line and doing exactly what leopards do best, and that is relaxing. Very hard to see, isn't it? If you didn't know it was there, there's his foot sitting on the rock. If you didn't know he was there, it would be invisible. Aidan would like to know, how do leopards know they're safe when they're sleeping? Their ears are always very, very alert. They are a very sensitive and in-tuned animal with their environment, and any sound that moves will alert them, and they can react so quickly. If any of you have got a domestic cat back home, have you ever noticed when it's sitting there, its eyes are fully closed, it looks like it is fast asleep, and something happens, you don't even know what it is, and that cat is gone in absolutely split seconds. So they are always alert, they always know what's going on, but they rest. So the ears never stop. Living out here in the savannah where we are in the African bush in Djuma in South Africa. All of the animals here are constantly and forever on edge and alert to what is going on around them. They don't have the benefit that we do as people, where we can lock ourselves indoors, behind doors and gates. These animals have to constantly be aware of what is moving and twitching in the long grass around them. So they're constantly alert, and if they were not, they would not survive. Hello, Shelby. Very good question. How does a young leopard find its own territory? Well, first of all, a young leopard will not have a territory. He will spend time. Well, let's go to the basics, okay? So female leopards, they have the cubs, and when they have a female cub, that female will basically carve out a section of her mother's territory, whereas the male will generally move away under pressure from other males. So that is essentially what will happen, is the female, when she gets to 3-4 years of age, will carve out a territory within her mother's territory and stay pretty close to home, whereas the males will move away and they will encounter other males, they'll encounter lions, they'll encounter other females, and eventually they will have moved far away that when they are big enough and strong enough, will have encountered enough action in their life to then be deemed dominant and then to find a territory. But by that stage, they will have had many scraps and many fights. They will be an efficient hunter. They will be able to provide for themselves. And if they don't manage to get that far, then sadly, their genetics will die with them. But the survival of the fittest out here, only the strong will survive, only the strong will breed, and only the strong genes will move forward in the population. So this male leopard is still within his sort of birth area, and it's very interesting that we're able to spend time with these animals and see what they're doing. He was actually his mom disappeared when he was about a year old, and he was semi-adopted by another female that this morning was right here with him, and he had all sorts of interesting interaction with. So whether he's going to move away from Djuma and find another territory in the near future we will see, but hopefully he stays a bit longer because we absolutely love spending time with him. But on that note, I'm going to go over to another good friend of mine, Scott Dyson, and he is also out like me, but on drive.
Hello everyone, it is a great pleasure to welcome you on board with me. My name is Scott and I'm teamed up with Ferg on camera. Now, we've been spending the whole afternoon searching for a female leopard who's got a tiny little cub. It's only 4 months old and very, very cute. And we've been searching in this area where they were last seen this morning. They were actually walking up the same road, and then a little bit ahead they turned off to the right hand side and went somewhere into this thick bush. So I'm guessing they've been sleeping there the whole day. It's been a very, very hot day, and it's only cooled down very recently, since the sun set about half an hour ago. So those are what our plans are, and hoping we're going to get lucky. I'd love to show you guys a little leopard cub. Elijah, you would like to know if leopards ever attack and eat people, and it's not very common, but it does happen. Lions and leopard are the two big cats in Africa that can and have killed people before. Cheetah will not cause any trouble with people, or let me be a little bit more clear. Cheetah that live in the wild will never harm, well, ordinarily would not harm humans. However, cheetah that have been raised in captivity and zoos and have become very used to human, well, that's very different. And it's the same with all wild animals. Any animal that's been raised by us as humans and got too used to us becomes a lot more dangerous than a wild animal. So I've never ever come close to being eaten by a leopard or a lion. So even though it does happen, it's very, very uncommon. And you're far safer out here in the bush than you are in any city in the world. That I can guarantee you. It's the humans you need to look out for, not the animals. So that's the good news. As long as you kind of take the basic precautions, just like you do when you at home crossing the street. It's your own kind of driveway is a dangerous place if you don't take the necessary precautions. And it's the same out here. As long as you kind of look left and look right before crossing, you should be okay. And the same is applicable with a lot of the animals. In America, I think you look right and then left, because your roads are different to ours. We drive on the different side of the road to you, and our steering wheel is on the different side of the car to you. So that's something you guys may have noticed. You guys would have had the steering wheel over here. Okie dokie. Well, we're going to continue searching through this area. Like I said, I hope I'm going to find you a little cute leopard cub and her mom. And while we continue that search, I want to send you back to one of the others.
Well, we're down on the ground now because I found some footprints, but the light is fading quickly. Come and have a look at this leopard footprint. Now, this is from a big male leopard. Over here you can see, compare it to the size of my hand. It's not really as big as a lion track, but these are relatively fresh. So this leopard has walked here after we did our morning safari, because you can see the tire tracks, and the leopard track is on top of that. And I actually came and drove through here this morning, so there's probably my tire tracks that this leopard has gone over, so it could be anywhere. And there's an animal. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it because it is very, very dark, but there's a big elephant. He's just over the horizon. I think he might have been moving and given us the slip. So we'll see if we can spot him, but we're not going to go close to him. Can you see him by that tree? It might be very, very dark, but he's just next to that marula tree. He's over there. I think you've got to go to the left a little bit more. The next tree, yeah. There he is, on that one. So if you look carefully, there is an elephant, but we're not going to go close to him because the sun has now disappeared and the light is fading very, very quickly. So it's going to be a little bit dangerous, so we're not going to go there. We're only going to view animals on foot during the day when there's sun. It might be my friend Daryl, who's an elephant I've known for quite a few years. Now, Mike, you were wondering, what is the weather mostly like? Well, we're slowly coming into autumn now, so the weather at this time of the year is actually quite nice, in fact. So it's still a bit hot. February is the hottest time of the year in this area. Sure, it can get well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit and quite a high humidity. And then now as we come into autumn, it's going to start cooling down. The days are getting a lot shorter, but it's perfect. I can still go out in shorts and a t-shirt in the morning. It's really nice. Gentle breeze when you're driving, otherwise it's not too bad. And then in winter it's very cold. We've got to put all the jackets on and scarves, although you'll probably laugh at us because we don't get snow out here. But when you're driving around in an open vehicle like Scott and Steve are, it gets very, very, very chilly. Now, I believe you guys are asking for some plants. There are two plants that I'm looking for right now. They're actually, one of them is now, it was actually from Shelby. Sorry, I'm scanning around, if there are any plants and which ones are the deadliest. But of course I can't find any right now. But I'm looking for a flower that's bright orange. It's called a lion's eye. I don't know if we're going to be able to find it now. It may have closed up, which is why I can't maybe see it. And then there's another one called a gif apple, a poison apple. There's euphorbias, which are highly toxic. Ooh, and I've got a bug that wants to die, apparently. It keeps trying to fly into my ear. It keeps doing the... Yeah, get away from me. Ah, hang on. Here's the poison apple. Oh, that was good. I thought we weren't going to find one. So if you have a look over here, it is difficult because the light is faded. Look at that beautiful flower. Purple with a yellow center. And we've even got a fruit just over here. You see that fruit? Now this is a poisonous plant. We don't want to eat it. If I were to eat that, it would make me very, very sick. I don't think it's going to kill me if I eat one, but I'm sure if I ate a few of them, I wouldn't be very well. Now the rule in the bush is, when you find some fruit, anything that looks like an apple, a tomato, an onion, a cucumber, don't touch it. Keep away from it. Typically they have some type of toxin for us as humans. And then if they've got a milky latex too. So if you break a leaf open or a stem of a plant and a bit of white sort of stuff comes out of it, you squeeze it, you don't want to touch anything that's got a milky latex either, because they're typically toxic. And that's what the euphorbia has. But it's a bit dark for us. There are some euphorbias growing in the garden, actually, where we live. So, anyways, we'll try again next time. I'm sure you're all going to come and visit us again. So this is just the start of seeing all sorts of cool things on a bushwalk. But I am going to send you to Steve to see how his afternoon is going.
Thank you very much, Taylor. I hope you are on your way home soon before it gets too dark and the leopards start to stalk you. But we have managed to find ourselves a brown-hooded kingfisher, which is a beautiful little bird. He's perched just above this sleeping cat, and I wonder if he wonders what this cat is doing in his territory. Why are you lying there, Mr. Cat? I don't think the leopard is too much of a risk to the kingfisher itself, but he is in there somewhere. There he is. He's lying very, very flat. He's not doing too much, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you must remember this is a live game drive safari, and we have no idea what could happen next. This leopard could jump up and do something crazy, or it could just lie here for the next 3 hours. We have no way of knowing. But we like to sit and spend time and observe and see what happens. Drew would like to know how many hours a day do leopards sleep. Well, basically, they will spend a bit of time feeding, a bit of time walking around, and if they have some food, then they don't have to do any hunting, so they'll probably sleep between 18 and 20 hours a day, very similar to that of lions. They have got a very high diet of protein, and so they spend a lot of time just lying there and digesting it. So how marvelous would that be? 18 hours in bed every day. They don't have Netflix or anything like that to keep them occupied. Just flies to nibble at their ears and birds to shout at them. So, folks, we're about to turn over to infrared, which means we're able to watch these animals at night without messing with them. We're not going to put any lights on them. Seb switched to the infrared, which means that this animal is completely visible to the camera, but to the naked eye shortly it will be invisible. And Kiara would like to know, where are leopards found? We find leopards all over southern Africa, all over most parts of Africa, in fact, wherever there are small to medium-sized antelope and wherever there's suitable habitat. Although they love savanna biome, they love areas with riverine areas where there's lots of drainage lines, where there's tall trees. To escape other predators such as lion and hyena, they need tall trees to be able to climb into. But pretty much anywhere where you find small to medium-sized animals throughout southern Africa, we find them. Even in agricultural areas where most of the other animals have been removed because of farming, you still have leopards coming in and out of those areas. They are very, very adaptable and very resilient to changes in the environment. And all over the savanna of South Africa, we have multitudes of leopards all over the place. And we're very blessed in Djuma in South Africa, in the Sabi sands, to be able to see them as much as we do. And I think they like being superstars. They like being on the camera and showing the world how beautiful they are. And it's really important for the conservation of these cats to show them, to show people that there is more of a value to them than others, such as hunting, which not ideal for right now. But this leopard is not doing too much, boys and girls, so we're probably going to leave him shortly. As I said, it is a live safari. We only have about 20 minutes left. We're going to see if we can go find you something else of interest. And while we do so, we're going to go across to my friend Scott Dyson and see what he has for you.
We've got absolutely nothing. Ha! But that is one of the realities of being in a big, proper wilderness area and on safari. You don't know where the animals are all hiding. They've got lots of places to go. And The grass is so long at the moment, so there's lots of hiding places. But the good news is now that the sun has set, there'll be a lot of nocturnal animals that are going to be coming out and starting their day. So I'm hoping we might be able to find you some of those interesting nocturnal animals. And I'm also hoping to maybe find you a chameleon, because it's easier to spot chameleons using a spotlight at night than it is to find them during the day when their camouflage works very well. Now, Mohammed, you would like to know what is the difference between a lion and a leopard. Well, there's a few major differences that I'll start with. Firstly, lions are much bigger than leopards, almost twice the size of them. And the lion's coat is one color. Usually it's kind of a yellowish browny color, tawny color. The males sometimes have a big mane on their head, like a big hairdo. Whereas leopard males don't have that big mane, and leopards have also got spots, so their coat is very different to a lion. And I'm sure if you ask your teacher, she can show you a picture of the two next to one another, and that way you'll be able to clearly see that they are quite different looking. And of course you've just seen the spots with Steve, so maybe your teacher can just show you a picture of a lion. And it would also be nice if she could show you a picture of a big male lion, or he could show you a picture of a big male lion. So I don't know who your teacher is. And then that way you will get to know Mohammed. But good question, and you'll be glad to know that even though Steve just left that leopard, he's already found you some other animals.
Thank you, Scott. I have indeed. I'm having a bit more of a successful day than you are, but then it happens to us all, and we have now found the Cape buffalo. Isn't that marvelous? Another one of the big five animals. Leopard, lion, elephant, rhino, and buffalo form the big five. And here we have a small breeding herd, meaning there's males and females and their babies. Elijah would like to know if I ever got bitten by an animal. Well, while we were talking about that leopard, we were getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. I don't know if that counts. I'm not in the process of sticking my fingers near snakes, so I've yet to be bitten by a snake. I've been bitten by a chameleon before, which wasn't very pleasant. It was actually more of a fright than it was painful. And by a wild animal, no. I've yet to be bitten by a wild animal. But I have been bitten by a domestic dog a few times. So I don't really like other people's dogs, because I've been bitten by them. So I hope that answers your question. But out here, we don't really spend too much time interacting at close quarters with these animals. They are wild and they are dangerous. And they all have the potential to hurt you quite heavily if they wanted to. And if you got bitten by a leopard, it would be a story to tell if you survived. It would be a story indeed. But I hope never to be bitten by an animal like that in my life. Raymond would like to know what safety equipment we need on safari. Well, it depends on what kind of safari you are doing, Raymond. If you are going to be walking, like Taylor is doing, then you will be with a guide who will have a suitable rifle, and then from your point of view, a suitable pair of boots, and then something we call gaiters to protect the socks and the ankles from potential snake bites and all sorts of other things getting into the socks. Other than that, the safety precautions that you will need is just a good attitude and respect for the environment. And that is on foot, on a vehicle, and obviously on foot as well. A hefty pair of binoculars is essential. In the vehicle, generally you are very safe. The guides that take you out on safari are very good at what they do, and they keep things very, very safe. As long as you stay on the vehicle like we are right now, and you don't press into animals, you don't cause them any stress, they will leave you alone. So from a safety point of view, coming out into the African bush, you are very safe if you're doing it with the right people and you have the right attitude. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we are going to move on from these buffalo, as the infrared is not doing a marvelous job of showing them, and we're going to go back over to Scott, who has managed to find his way back to Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, we've arrived at a big waterhole, and we would like to show you an animal that's just been having a swim. I'm not too sure, like Steve just said, his infrared lights don't work if the animals are too far, so we're just going to try and use the natural light for the time being. There's quite a lot of light reflecting off the water. And this elephant's having a bath. It's one of my favorite things to watch, elephants swimming. It's also taking a drink there, sucking water into its nose and then blowing it into its mouth. Its trunk, after all, is its nose. How cool is that? And it's not alone here. There's also a hippopotamus, whose head you can see just poking out the water there. There's a couple of them. And let's try the infrared and see what happens. Oh, a bird just flew through the screen there. So that's looking pretty good. And hippos are some of the animals that I was telling you about earlier that are nocturnal. They spend their day in the water relaxing and then come out at night to feed on grass. So they're about to start their day. Zach, you would like to know what preys on elephants. And not many things do, but when they're very young and small, they can be at risk of being attacked by lion, leopard and hyena. All of those predators will take whatever opportunities they can get. So even though it's not something that happens often, it can happen from time to time. And then in some parts of Africa, again, that doesn't happen very often, but you get huge prides of lions, sometimes over 30 lions in a pride. And when there's that many mouths to feed, in the right place to... Oh, that Ellie's going right under at the moment. Sometimes they just stick their trunk out to have a breath of air. And like I was saying, with the big prides of lion, you get some areas where there's not too much food for them, and of course they've got lots of mouths to feed, and they have specialized in hunting elephants. But it's not very common at all. Well, very, very good. I'm so happy we got to see this Ellie swimming and to show you guys a glimpse of some hippopotamus. Kiana, you'd like to know if elephants ever eat meat? No, not on purpose. Maybe the odd snake goes into their mouth when they're ripping leaves off trees, but no, they are entirely vegetarian. They eat leaves, fruits from trees, bark from trees, all kinds of different parts of the trees and plants. Ian, you'd like, oh, nice big yawn from the hippo. Look at how wide he can open his mouth and look at how big his teeth are. Oof. Ian, you'd like to know if we have to hunt for our own food. And no, thankfully not. Even though we are in a beautiful wilderness area, about a 1.5 hour drive from here, there's a small town. And at that town, there's a regular grocery store where we buy all of our food. So we don't have to... worry about having to collect our food from the wilderness. We get it just like you do from a grocery store. Mrs. Mouchon, you'd like to know, are hippos dangerous? And yes, they certainly are, even though at the moment they look like they're quite relaxed. They can be very, very dangerous to us as humans, and they actually kill more people in Africa than any other mammal. It's mosquitoes that actually kill the most people because of the malaria disease that they spread. So, yes, they are dangerous. They've got very short tempers, and if you go into their water or get in between them and their water, if they're out of the water, they can and will attack you. And you can see how wide it's opening its mouth there. You do not want to be bitten by one of those. Kenzie, you'd like to know what preys on hippos. And just like the elephant, they don't have too many threats when they're fully grown. Occasionally big male lions will take them down, but it's not something that happens often at all. Because even for a big lion, that hippo is probably about 10 to 15 times the size of a lion, and is that much more powerful. It's got that big mouth that they can bite down on the lions and defend themselves with. So they don't have too much to worry about. How cool was that? That was the hippo calling. That was my impersonation of it. So I'm glad you got to hear that. We're going to move on now. I want to see what else we can find you before the end of the safari. So time to say goodbye to the elephants and the hippo, and hello again to Steve.
Thank you very much, Scott. I hope you weren't calling me a hippo there, but I think you weren't. How marvelous is that to watch an elephant swimming? Very, very special indeed. So we've moved on from those buffalo because they weren't doing too much and the light wasn't showing much. So we're going to look more for a nocturnal animal. And Ella would like to know, are animals more dangerous at night? Now, Ella, when we were many years ago, humans lived in caves and we survived because of fire. And in those days, lions and leopards ruled the night. And man was at their mercy at night, and during the day they would run away from man because man can see during the day. So during the day, lions and leopards are pretty relaxed and pretty scared of people, but as soon as the sun sets, it's amazing to see the changes. The fear that they exhibit towards man also changes at night. And I'm talking about on foot. In the vehicle, they get quite used to us, but on foot, if you're walking in the daytime and a lion sees you, most of the time they run away. Unless she's got cubs, she wants to protect her cubs from us, she will not run away. But at night, it's a different story. That's when we become the food. We do not see at night. As you can see, we are using a spotlight. A leopard would be able to walk through here and see absolutely everything in full HD without the need of light. But we also use the infrared, so we use the spotlight to find the animals, and then if we find them, we will use the infrared to view them, because we don't want to blind them. If I shone this in your eyes, you would not be able to see for a few minutes. And the same, there we go, we got some impala up ahead, so I'm just going to turn my lights down. No spotlighting, because the poor guys, we're just going to blind them for the leopard to come along and to munch on them. And you see them there. Let's try. Keelan would like to know, if lions, when they wake up, do they start hunting right away? Now, firstly, Keelan, these are some impala here, boys and girls, some impala antelope, and they are very common here. This is the common meat for leopards and lions and hyena. But what lions will do and what leopards will do, Keaton, when you wake up, or Keenan, when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you do? You have a little stretch, you go and you brush your teeth, and then you start your day. Now, leopards and lions are very, very similar. They will often wake up, they'll have a little stretch, they will go to the toilet, they'll do some cleaning perhaps, do lots of yawning and stretching, and then they'll start walking. And then when they start walking, their senses will start waking up, they'll get some stretches in through the walking, and then if any animals happen to come across their path, they'll either smell them or see them, then they will actively try and hunt them. But as the predators are as amazing as they are, these animals, such as impala, are incredibly good at avoiding being eaten. Very good at running away and very good at seeing them. Raymond, these are not gazelles, these are antelope, but what you would call a group of gazelle or a group of antelope would be a herd. A herd, and in this case it is a bachelor group, because there's a group of boys, they've got horns, not antlers, And these impala are the primary diet of most of the predators that we find on Djuma, but they are very well adapted to running away and avoiding being eaten. It's only the weak that get caught, or the ones that aren't paying attention. And have a look there, how 3 of them have their heads up, 1 has their head down. Now they all have their heads up. They are constantly paying attention to anything that might be trying to sneak up on them. Now, if I look over my dashboard, I cannot see these impala. It is completely black to me, but what we're seeing on the infrared is pretty much what a lion or leopard would essentially see in the nighttime hours. And the impala, they can also see much better than we can at night, and hence the fact that we don't shine the light, because if we did shine the light on them, we would blind them, and then they'd be easy prey. You can see he's looking straight at me. He knows I'm here. He can hear I'm here. He's got those monocular ears. He can hear sounds from every direction. And they know that this is the time of night that they are most worried for the presence of lions and leopards. But they still have to feed. They still have to do their thing. They have to perpetuate and continue in life. And that's why they hang out in a little group. Because if the leopard or lion's going to eat one of them, hopefully it's not me, it's one of the other ones. So it's a little bit of selfish behavior there. Safety in numbers. But folks, we're going to continue on. We're driving in the river, the drainage line here, on our way back to camp, and we're going to go back over to Scott and see what he has for you.
Well, yes, it definitely would be quite spooky to be an impala out here after dark. There's no two ways about that. Imagine on a rainy, stormy night when there's thunder and lightning and it's dark and they can't hear anything creeping up to them. Ooh. But I guess they get used to it, you know. Their senses are very good at detecting any predators. So at least I guess they are equipped with the right senses to avoid being eaten. Ethan, you would like to know if there are any cheetah here. And yes, there are. We do see them occasionally. But because there's so many lion and leopard, the cheetah don't do very well here. Lion and leopard are both stronger and bigger than cheetah. So in areas where you have lots of lion and leopard, you generally don't have too many cheetah. Not always though. Another big reason why they don't do too well here is because the vegetation is very thick. Which means 2 things. Most importantly, it's hard for them to avoid being caught and killed by lion and leopards, and lions will kill leopard and cheetah, and lions and leopards will kill cheetah. They all compete with one another, and the lions are the biggest and the strongest. Now, like I said, it's very thick here, so cheetah can run into trouble with the lions and the leopards very easily. But it's also difficult for them to use their incredible speed. They are the fastest mammal on the planet. And it's obviously difficult to run quickly through thick bush, whereas you get some areas like up in the Masai Mara and the Serengeti in Kenya and Tanzania, which are 2 countries in the kind of middle of Africa on the equator. And there's big open grasslands which are very well suited to cheetah. So yeah, I'm not even sure when last we saw a cheetah here. Olivia, yes, hyenas do sometimes get eaten by lions. Not often, but it does happen. It's not something I've ever seen happen, but lions certainly do not really like hyena, because hyena give them a hard time and often try and steal their food. So it does happen, but you'll tend to find that sometimes hyena will also get to kill lion. You can imagine a big old lion who's lived out its years and is now beginning to get old and weak. You know, if they come across a clan of hyena, those hyena might kill the lion and eat it. Because like Steve said a little bit earlier on the drive, it is the survival of the fittest and the strongest. And if you're not fit and strong, you won't survive out here. Even if you're a lion, even if you're an elephant, I guess everything, including us, has got a lifespan. Nobody lives forever. Oh, we found a little scrub here in the road. Oh, it just jumped off. and to see it in long grass is going to be very tricky. We'll try though. Aidan, you'd like to know if there's any venomous snakes, and well done for saying venomous, because that is the correct terminology. I think we may be able... Oh, no, it's run off. But there's a big elephant. So, tiny little hare led us to an elephant. Let me move forward a bit and see if we can't get any better views. So yes, like I was saying, you've used the correct terminology. Venomous, not poisonous, because venom needs to be envenomated into your bloodstream, whereas poison needs to be ingested or swallowed into your stomach. I feel like it might be a little bit too thick here. Oh, no luck. Let's carry on and keep looking for a chameleon, because I'm desperate to try and show you one of those, or who knows, maybe even a snake. So I hope you guys understand the difference between venom and poison. And yes, we certainly do get venomous snakes here. One of the most venomous snakes we get is the black mamba, and I was lucky enough to see one the other day that had actually caught and killed one of these hares that I just tried to show you now, and it was stolen from the snake by a mongoose. Can you believe it? Well, there's some wonderful news right for the last few minutes of safari, and Steve has found you guys a last little surprise. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks so much for joining the safari, and thank your teacher. Make sure you do all your homework, and then maybe you'll be able to join us again one day. Over to Steve.
Thank you, Scotty D. We'll see you back at camp shortly. And look at what we found, ladies and gentlemen. We have found Hosana. He has come back onto the road. Our gamble paid off. We decided to leave and come back again, and this is what happens if you are patient and you have good heart, friends in high places, because Hosana is friendly, and he's now going to come and walk straight past the car and say hello. There are buffalo very close by here, and Hosana was found a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago, with a baby buffalo. Which, sorry about the car there, folks. I can't do anything about this. We have no control over his movements. And have a look at how big his pupils are. Look at that. They have the ability to completely enlarge their pupils, dilate their pupils to take in all the light around them. Folks, it is pitch black around me. There is not an inkling of light, and yet he is looking straight through my soul. He's sorry about my head. I don't know if he's trying to come and say hello again, because that's what he does. And what a fantastic afternoon we've had. I'm so glad we were able to show you Hosana at the end here, so you can see what a male leopard looks like with the face and his eyes. And we're going to say thank you to the school and for all the viewers for joining us. From me, Steve Falconbridge, and Seb Romby, a very good night. Thank you. Goodbye.